Hello, and welcome once again. J76NY here, playing Suzerain, the Kingdoms of Rizia DLC. The adventures of King Romus Toras continue. We're just getting started with the playthrough, and so far I'm really enjoying it. Keep those tips and comments coming to help the playthrough along a little bit here. Speaking of tips and comments, I am going to take a look at the excavation here. Well, it's majorly in favor, 3-2 neutral, so -2 on the authority. We have 7, we get 5 per turn. -2 on the budget. And we get 5 per turn on that as well. -2 construction, +2 on tourism. I think I'm actually going to do this. We are going to excavate the ancient Resned city in Tops. Uplift in public sentiment is a good thing. So there we go. Okay, there's that. Before we get into today's work, let's read the news here. Hopes to be restored to former glory. In a new decree, King Romus has ordered the restoration of the ancient city of Tops back to its former glory. Tops was an important cultural hub in the Resned Empire, one of its great cities. Unfortunately, the centuries took their toll, and today it's largely in ruin and disrepair. Crown announced that the historic center will be restored as it once was, with no expenses spared. A team of Rizian and international experts in archaeology and restoration will lead the project as Mercopa's brightest minds come together to unearth one of the brightest cities mankind has ever known. In addition to restoring the ancient city center, excavation of several historic sites surrounding Tops are planned. Once their mysteries have been revealed, these sites will open to the public in order to greatly boost historic culture, tourism in the area. While the grand endeavor will take a while and will be costly, the palace promises that nothing can stand in the way of showing Rizia's great culture to the world. Soon all of Mercopa will make the journey to see what our forefathers were capable of. Olavo abuzz as grand ceremony readies for King Romus's consecration. In the heart of Cardis Monteclar province, Olavo is immersed in meticulous preparation for the consecration of the king. King Romus set to ascend as God's earthly representative, led by the enigmatic Grand Wiseman. The city is a hive of anticipation. Public festivities and religious processions amplify the fervor, creating an electric atmosphere in the countdown to the historic coronation. And the third one is entire country honors King Romus. Rizia continued to celebrate the coronation of King Romus Toras this week. An estimated 1 million commoners lined the streets of Porte Drazan for the official parade, in which military brigades escorted by a dozen golden carriages bearing the royal family and other members of nobility. Rizian flags flew at street parties and banquets in Iza, Monteclar, and Monquise, with the latter hosting a grand fireworks display in tribute to its favorite son. Smaller but no less jubilant celebrations were held in Celebes, Fort Els, and Folse de Tor. Restaurants across Rizia were instructed in the preparation of a special coronation dish, Toras flambe, consisting of monkeys, lobster doused in fortified wine and set ablaze. Sounds gross. I'm not a big seafood. So. United Cantana suppresses protests in South. United Cantana has intensified its clampdown on protests in the South Cantana, specifically targeting the Federal Socialist Republic of Kyrgyzstan Zolotek. These areas predominantly inhabited by the Zaranist have been experiencing heavy restrictions and forceful dispersal of protests. Suzerainists, known for their distinct beliefs, are also protesting with neo-economic Trotskyist, advocating for increased free trade rights. The situation escalated following a controversial incident in FSR Slovakia, reported under duress by the Red Unity Chronicle to Geopolitico. Okay. So what do we have to do? Do we have anything on the regional map? Do not. We're not too far out from our old homeboy Anton taking over Swordland here. We have here let's read the report. Despite the recent structural damage to the Arch Sanctuary of Plavo, inspectors have certified that the traditional consecration of the king ceremony may safely be conducted there. However, an extensive restoration is recommended for this important place of worship, and the final resting place to rear his disciple Callus the Devout can be open to the public. Jubilant street festivals adorned with colorful banners and lively music engulf the city. Religious processions featuring revered artifacts and clergy weave through enthusiastic crowds, heightening the anticipation for King Romus's impending consecration. Have a classical concert. As a gesture to the noble houses and to celebrate the cultural music heritage of our land, a proposal to host a classical concert featuring the renowned Rizian composer Antonio Iria Albani has been made. Such an event could serve as a display of the monarch's commitment to the arts and reinforce its prestigious image among noble houses. We'll lose one budget doing that. It's a time of celebration, though, so spare no expense. Go. Albania arrives in capital as nobles gather. Nobles of all Rizia's royal houses have descended on Porte Drezan to attend the classical concert hosted by King Romus. Now famed composer Antonio Iria Albani has also arrived, just in time for his moment to shine. Thousands of commoners had gathered near the airport to catch a glimpse of the celebrity, but failed as he was quickly ushered into a limo and driven towards the concert hall. All right. Go get consecrated. My motorcade traveled for over an hour before the Arch Sanctuary of Plavo appeared just over the horizon. Golden Dome, I want to see this. No picture. Alright. Golden Dome radiated under the morning sunshine. It was a view I'd seen countless times, but it never failed to inspire awe. Titus, who was our kind of our chief of security, captain of the Golden Guard, Titus, who was sitting next to the driver, turned back to me. You'll be arriving shortly, Your Majesty. Good, I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. Let's get this over with. Should be interesting. If you're not familiar with Suzerain, the style of gameplay is a kind of a choose-your-own-adventure role-playing game. Your choices do matter in terms of how the story plays out. Some of your choices have some pretty far-reaching consequences, so I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. I was here for the consecration of the king. It was me. Centuries-old ecclesiastical ceremony symbolizing a monarch's appointment as God's highest representative on earth, better known as the divine right of kings. Unlike my coronation, this was a private event shrouded in secrecy. Only a select few, such as Grand Wiseman and religious counselor Sal Ignacius, were privy to what the ceremony entailed. Not even my father, despite my asking, would disclose what occurred. He would simply say what took place was between me and God. Though I'd wished I'd been given more insight on what to expect, I respected my father's vow of secrecy and didn't press the issue further. But aside from the pomp and circumstance of the consecration of the king, this meeting was my chance to catch up on Rizia's current state of religious affairs. Before long, my car pulled up in front of the towering colonnade situated on either side of the entrance. Security guards held back a crowd of onlookers gathered along either side of the stairway leading up to the arch sanctuary, where the Grand Wiseman stood. Grand Wiseman Ignatius, looking as stoic as ever. Look at that old geezer. Hard to believe he's still breathing. All right, let's proceed. Here we go. Good luck, sir. Evis Zaitu. Evis Zaitu was Rukarest, or may God be with you. And with you as well. Titus quickly exited the vehicle and opened my side door. As I stepped out and onto the pavement, I was immediately greeted by the roar of a crowd that had come to witness this occasion. Most cheered my praise, but there was also a small group of demonstrators protesting the ceremony. I looked closely at the protesters. One was waving a sign that read, "Galkandism is not blasphemy." These people look like they could give you trouble. Shall I have them removed? Yes, have them removed immediately. Their actions are completely inappropriate. You really had to ask. Get those traitors the hell out of my sight. No, they have a right to protest, even if I disagree with their message. Let them protest, Captain. This obviously holds significant importance. I'm not going to remove them, just because I don't want to be that kind of king, at least in this playthrough. Go with this one. Yes, Your Majesty. Cast an intimidating glare over the protesters as we passed them. I turned back towards the crowd, who continued to watch my every move. I'm going to wave. Gave a royal wave to the crowd. Shouts of admiration resonated even louder from my subjects. Welcoming smiles spread across the Grand Wiseman's face as he came down the stairs to greet me. Welcome, Your Majesty. We are greatly honored to have you here for this momentous occasion. I look forward to serving you as I served your father. I could think of better ways to spend my day. It is I who is honored to be here. You are too kind. I shall do my best to provide you both personal and state guidance on religion. Thank you, Grand Wiseman. I aspire to fulfill God's will here on earth just as you have done. And I am privileged to receive your guidance. Go with that one. I'm merely a humble servant, Your Grace. I do as God commands. After today, it shall be you who speaks for the divine. 6 stars of Saint Ruhek still shine upon our nation. Come, let us step inside. We have much to discuss. We began heading towards the entrance. However, I didn't get very far before my attention was drawn to a commotion from behind. As I turned to look, a throng of people surged against my security guards. I wonder if I'm going to regret not having those protesters removed here. Amidst the commotion, one managed to slip from their grasp and dash towards me with frightening speed. I'm going to stand my ground. I didn't want to be seen as a coward, so I stood my ground as the man approached. Titus, without missing a beat, caught the man by the arm and threw him to the ground. Other guards approached as Titus held the man down. The surprised visitor was shouting something, but I couldn't understand what he was saying. We'll take it from here, Your Majesty. Did you expect me to handle it all by myself? Well done, Captain. Take him away. With a nod from Captain Gordian, 2 of his guardsmen lifted the man to his feet and escorted him away. Sal and I continued towards the Arch Sanctuary's entrance. I humbly apologize for the interruption, Your Majesty. Can't say I cared for that little stunt, but I do wonder what the man wanted. Was that man who I think he was? Who do I think he was? I'll see to it that the protester is locked away for quite some time. Quite the daredevil, that man. I'm inclined to know his motivation. Go with that one. He was a dirty and Golcondist. I'd say his motivation was clear. Kind of curious what this Golcondism. Fundamental and extremist branch of Rookism within the broad framework of nerdity. Is recognized for its emphasis on warrior culture and the pursuit of physical manifestations of heaven and earth. Diverges from mainstream... Okay. That's a lot. But it is one of the things I like about the game. A divinely ordained state where the material world aligns with the spiritual. So he was a religious fanatic. Demanding entrance to our sacred Rukrist space. I hope he gets what he's got coming to him. I didn't know dirty as fundamentalism has gotten this out of control. I'm not surprised at his actions. When you deprive a man of religious freedom, this is the consequence. I didn't know dirty and fundamentalism has gotten this out of control. Alas, our Dirtian brothers have strayed far from God's path. He paused with his hand on the door. There was a time when Golcondists prayed here in such small numbers that their presence was tolerated. But the more Dirtians came to Rizia, the more they overwhelmed the sacred sanctuaries of Plavo, Benevan, and jails with their blasphemous worship. So you ban them, right? Rightfully so, I might add. Couldn't we pacify him? What's so blasphemous about it? Kind of curious. Golcondists have a martial culture, Your Majesty. They seek purification through violence, among other perversions. It's time you saw what they did to this very building. I accompanied Sal into the Arch Sanctuary. Titus and one of his men stood guard at the entrance. Our footsteps echoed through the massive empty chamber as we made our way down the main aisle, separating the hall in two. I was surrounded by ornate wall murals of religious scene depictions, leaving no surface bare. Nearby statues seemed to watch me as I passed. The place never fails to impress. One could get lost in a place, all spectacle, no substance. I remember the Arch Sanctuary being a lot bigger. This place never fails to impress. Just picturing it in my head, kind of... I could almost envision what it would be like standing there. And it honestly would be fairly impressive. Indeed it does. I've been here more times than I can remember, and I still get choked up sometimes. Being the final resting place of Callus the Devout, it's only fitting that such a monument be built in his honor. Credited for single-handedly spreading the teachings of Saint Ruhek through the kingdom, he's considered Rizia's most revered disciple. As a great admirer of his, I've always aspired to lead a life of devotion and virtue, much like his. We'll go with that. Warms my heart to hear it. We stopped when we'd reached the chancel where the altar stood. Sal gestured over our heads to the second-floor gallery overlooking the hall. Part of it had collapsed, and the rest had been roped off. I have to say, the disheveled look gives the place character. It's a shame what happened to such a magnificent building. Religious fanaticism will do that. I couldn't agree more. A large group of Golcondists came here on one of their holy pilgrimages several years ago. An argument with the local Ruhest worshippers led to an altercation. Those beasts, pray to the Lord it won't happen again. Perhaps it was the locals who started it. The inhabitants of Cardes Monteclar are not exactly conflict averse. That's the only reason for our blasphemy laws. Why has it not been fixed? We will get to that. Oh, you want money, don't you? I don't have much left to be passing out. Rizia's religious climate is at a crossroads, Your Majesty. From providing for the impoverished to expanding educational opportunities, our faith-based institutes are a central part of everyday life, the fabric that ties our society together, all under the umbrella of our state religion, Ruhism. It's as it should be. I know I would be lost without Ruhism to guide me. I don't know if I want to go full-blown religious on this here. Should religion really be playing such a large role in modern society? Not going to go that route either. You could have fooled me. I look around here and I see heretics and blasphemers everywhere. I've been wondering whether we need a state religion. Shouldn't everyone be free to worship as he or she pleases? Well, just having a state religion doesn't mean they can't, but they'd be lost without Ruism to guide me. As would I, Your Majesty, but our religious unity has begun to splinter in recent years. Apart from the Golcondas, we have seen a rising Desnurist minority due to the growing numbers of Wesek migrants. Desnurity was the other main branch of the Nurse religion observed in most countries to our north, including both Wayland and Rumburg. Lena had been a follower but converted to Ruhism on joining the Rizian royal family. A sacrifice, but one she gladly made in order to be with me. I would never counsel this country to turn away people in need, Your Majesty, but I do worry that our Ruist values are in danger of becoming diluted. The Desnurists are particularly concerning as they place exclusive reliance on the scripture of St. Dast, disregarding centuries of progress since Descension Day. The Golcondas pose a particularly large threat, using Ruism as a cover for blasphemy. As long as you are Grand Wiseman, I'm sure that those values will persevere. The Weseks endured immense suffering during the Civil War. I wouldn't deny them the right to find solace in their religion. I'm going to go with that one. It's not really giving them an endorsement, but if I can find solace in my religion, so can they. No, certainly not. There is one decision that must be made right away regarding Rizia's religious plurality. He stopped pacing and looked at me. I recently received an urgent request from the Archpriest of Celebes. That city's Dasnurist sanctuary has long been insufficient to serve worshippers' needs, and he requested a new one be constructed. And here we go. I'm not opposed, but isn't that the purview of the province of Brennus? Can't they worship in the same sanctuaries as Ruhism? Probably not. We should give the Dasnurists their sanctuary, as every inhabitant of Rizia should have a dedicated space for religious practice. We can't just roll out the welcome mat to Dasnurity without considering where it might lead. Shouldn't the province handle that? No. Okay, any large-scale religious project in Rizia must be approved and funded by the central religious authority. I would advise you to support the construction of a new Dasnurist house of worship, as long as it does not take resources away from the restoration of this very arch-sanctuary. He pointed to the ruined balcony. I petitioned your father to allocate state funds to return Plavo to his former grandeur. However, he was too preoccupied with other matters to sign the order. More proof that the church and state should be separate entities. Maybe he didn't think Plavo was worth saving. Sounds like a waste of money. I'm only finding out about this now. I don't know if I want to spend the money on that. To be honest with you. Maybe he didn't think Plavo was worth saving. I doubt that, Your Majesty. Your father was a very devout man, especially at the end of his life. We lack the means to finance both of your suggested projects. Therefore, we must prioritize. If I could only fund one of these projects, which would I do? Which is probably where it's going to lead. By Plavo, of course. But you ought to consider both. If only to keep Brennus Wesek population placated. Dale closed his eyes and tilted his head up slightly and waited my response. The Treasury currently lacks additional funds. The Treasury lacks the additional funds to support projects of such magnitude. And even if we did, I have reservations. Uh-oh. Much as I'd like to help, the Treasury currently lacks the funds. That's unfortunate to hear, but perfectly understandable. Those are matters we can discuss at a later date when the Crown has more financial flexibility. I was kind of thinking the same thing. Once we start making some money, then we can dole it out with a more relaxed hand. Which brings me to the main reason for your visitation, the consecration of the king ceremony. Dale approached me with a warm and inviting demeanor. With great honor, I shall lead you as you step across the threshold and unite with the divine. If you'll follow me, we can begin. He motioned towards a stone archway leading out of the chamber. I followed the Grand Wiseman down a long corridor. We eventually reached an imposing iron door. Behind it was a descending spiral staircase illuminated by torches mounted on the walls. I'm going to catch the plague, I know it. I guess I could crack a joke. What's down there? Come and see for yourself. This way, Your Majesty. I continued after him as we went down the stairs, which seemed to go on forever. Before long, we'd reached the bottom, where I was greeted by a wall of human bones that were carefully stacked from top to bottom. In an adjacent room, there were several tombs, each adorned with intricate decorations. Welcome to the catacombs. Impressive, to say the least. I'm tempted to knock and see if anyone's home. Indeed it is. As for the tomb's tenants, they're mostly wealthy noblemen and their families alongside other well-to-do individuals throughout the centuries. No time to bother with corpses, we've got a ceremony to perform. That I'd like to hear more about. Shouldn't delay the ceremony. But very well, who would you like to know about? Oh boy, here's the list. I gestured at the first tomb. That would be the tomb of Tiberius Azaro. Not only was he the Earl of Havas, he was the most revered general during the War of Rizian Succession. Even though House Azaro ultimately lost the war, the general never lost a single battle. After the war, he established Camp Domus, Rizia's largest military base of this day. Even though he fought against House Toras, I still hold him in the highest respect. With that would be Aurelia Ixdaro. If you remember your history, he was the famed industrialist of the 19th century who revolutionized mining equipment, led to the Second Rizian Gold Rush, creating an economic boon for the entire country. He single-handedly brought incomprehensible wealth to this kingdom overnight, granting us enduring power and influence. While he isn't of royal lineage, his legacy earned him a place among them. Okay. Decorated in gold, I would have considered it the most splendid of all, if not for the hole in the lid, through which I could catch a glimpse of the skeletal remains within. Here lies Bradius Azaro, the first Duke of Monteclar. All members of the royal house of Azaro are descended from him. Damage to his tomb was another casualty of the Golcondas pilgrims when a piece of the ceiling above came crashing down. I'm ready to move on. This way, Your Grace. As we made our way down the tunnel, the ceiling began to close in around us, and feelings of claustrophobia began to sink in. Just when it seemed like the tunnel would never end, we emerged into a vast cavern, also illuminated by torchlight. Several viziers, lesser in rank than Sal, were waiting for us. At the heart of the room stood a circle of 6 columns, each bearing a single star delicately carved upon them. They were arranged around a marble sarcophagus. The holiest of honors to be allowed in here. This is the tomb of Callus the Devout. Rare are those who have set foot in here. Count yourself among the blessed few. Callus the Devout's effigy became more apparent as I approached. Sal placed his torch in a nearby sconce as one of the other wise men carrying a silver tray approached us. On it was a golden chalice, a clay jug filled with oil, a sponge, and what appeared to be a bottle of wine. Let us begin. Please remove your clothes and stand on the royal seal. I'm beginning to have second thoughts. The hell with this. Well, that's our series. Enjoy it. This is too much. Whatever you say, I am ready. Following the Grand Wiseman's instructions, I joined him in reciting verses from the sacred scriptures. Having memorized them years ago, I recited them in unison. When my garments were completely removed, Sal proceeded to anoint me, dipping a sponge into fragrant oil and gently applying it all over my body. After my flesh was fully coated, he set aside the jug and sponge, reaching for the chalice and bottle of wine. He then poured the wine into the chalice until it reached the brim. It is well known that this is the final resting place of Callus the Devout, but what most don't know is that this is where he performed his first miracle. Miracle? Did I hear you correctly? Yes, the miracle of foresight. For upon filling his stomach with the sacred wine, the very wine before you now, he was given the ability to prophesize the future. He poured the wine into the chalice and held it high. What can I expect to see? You will see nothing. Only the most pious and reverent of men may drink from the sacred chalice. His expression darkened. That will not be you, at least not today. For you see, once consumed, Callus the Devout's gift of foresight shall, for a time, be bestowed upon the person who ingests it. He held up the chalice once more and drank until the wine was gone. Setting it down on the tray, he then stepped towards me and held out his hand. Take his hands. Listen closely to my words, for the gift of sight comes in flashes. He closed his eyes and began taking in long, deep breaths. Look around. Scanning the room, I watched as the other priests looked on, waiting to see what would happen next. We stood there in silence for what felt like an eternity. Wasn't sure what to expect. Then suddenly his body began to tremble and his hands took a firm grip in mine. I couldn't let go of even if I wanted. I see a crown descending into the sky, rising high above the surrounding countryside. What does that mean? Please don't interrupt. And on the crown is a fracture on the golden band. The higher it journeys upward, the larger the crack gets. Whether or not it can be mended is uncertain. You mean it's uncertain? Visions are possible outcomes of what could come to pass. They aren't set in stone. Go on. Now see soldiers, many soldiers, war and death. So much death. Or with whom? Most vicious foe. More than that, I cannot say. And the victors? I cannot tell. Whose soldiers? One of the armies, yes. Their uniforms carry the royal seal. Love the music. I continued to listen closely to his words. I now see two individuals. They are embraced in each other's arms, lovers. They are surrounded by people both for and against their union. Is it me? Union as in marriage? Or arrangement? Go on. It's a forbidden love or one of disapproval. Is it me? One of them is of your blood. Uh-oh. Maybe my daughter. Tell me more. So the broken crown could mean that Rizia is going to start heading up, but fall and then war and then some type of drama. Before me now is a heart that is being stabbed by a sword. Metaphor for betrayal? Possibly. Now I behold an endless sea of people stretching as far as the eye can see. They are marching towards the royal palace, in joy or anger, I cannot say for sure. Above them are birds, tens of thousands of them so thick they blacken the sky. They are migrating from distant lands and making their nest in ours. Birds represent Golcondas coming to our lands. Obviously, the birds represent Wezek Dasnuris coming to our lands. We'll go with that one, see what he says. And on a nearby mountain overlooking the city sits a beast with 3 heads. Each head is fighting with the other. 3 houses of Rizia, 3 heads. He must be brought under control either through taming or severing one or more heads, or all 3 will surely die. Flags. I've heard enough of this bullshit. Rizia's royal houses. If true, it could mean dark clouds on the horizon are fast approaching. I felt Sal loosen his hold of me, letting go. I looked at him curiously until he finally spoke. This vision have stopped, thus concluding the ceremony. Wait, I have so many questions I want to ask. I don't have the answer you're looking for. It's now up to you to decipher their meanings. That's the gift and the curse that comes with the divine right of the king. He seemed to be still recovering. After a long moment, he spoke again. Surely you now feel it, Your Majesty, the will of the divine coursing through your veins. It is now your responsibility to carry out what he has ordained, and it is mine to aid you in your holy duty. Pray that he and you will guide me. It's a heavy burden, but I accept it. Latia. I nodded in agreement at the ancient Ruist term. It was short for Essensi Halatia Veratin. If it is said, so it is. So it will be. I put on my clothes and made my way back through the catacombs until I'd reached the surface. The events of today forever burned in my memory. Part of me questioned whether or not what I'd experienced was real. And if it was, did I accept the responsibility that came with my consecration? Did I really speak for the divine? Before long, I was back on the road again, back to reality. As Arch Sanctuary of Plavo faded from view and my mind began to settle, I thought more about the visions, and whether or not they were real. And if they were, what my next step would be. Wow, look at all that. Alright. Situations. Average industrial production capacity. Okay. Provide energy heating subsidies for citizens. Act inheritance tax. Raise the base income tax, landowner tax. Remove income tax. Extensive geological survey initiative. Public transportation, welfare privatization. Tax credits for business, energy subsidies for industry. One-time government stimulus checks for the people. Increase health and education funding. Impose equal gender pay. Tenants protection law. Small initial global energies. Well, that's a lot. What's this here? Under construction. Read the news here. Royal consecration ceremony reaffirms monarch religion unity. Religion's role in the affairs of state has been upheld through King Romus's partaking of the consecration of the king. Hosted by the Arch Sanctuary of Olavo, the secret ceremony was presided over by Grand Wiseman. We at the Herald believe that harmonious collaboration between the church and state can yield numerous benefits, ultimately contributing to a more compassionate, inclusive, and prosperous society. Galmland demands more say in strait. Galmland has formally requested an expansion of its role in the oversight of strategic maritime routes, including the Galmish Sea, the Gulf of Galman, and the North Rican Sea paths. This demand comes amid the existing controls exercised by a CSP consortium, which holds veto power alongside Bogsland and the United Cantana and AN observers, who attempt to maintain neutrality in marine traffic. Galmland's argument for a stronger presence in decision-making stems from its geographical significance and the nation's strategic interest in the region. Could potentially shift the balance of power and control over these crucial maritime passages. Okay. Have next. Current security situation. Briefing there. Nothing there. Alright, so we'll get into that in the next episode. I'm going to think about what these visions meant. There was the birds, which I'm thinking it might mean that, like, we are experiencing more of an influx of influence than what we really need. The Rizian crown rising and cracking could mean that kind of a too big for your britches type of deal. The further up the food chain the kingdom of Rizia rises means we could attract unwanted attention. There's that. And then a war in our future, the three heads, the three-headed beast. I do think that means something to do with the three houses that control Rizia and a need to unite them, which could also play into the forbidden love thing there. I've got plans for King Romus and his romantic life. Whether or not we can make those happen could go a ways in uniting at least two of those heads with some head. Anyway, if you like the episode, hit the like button. If you have any tips, thoughts, or advice, leave those in the comment section down below. I do take the advice and tips of my viewers very seriously, but Also, keep in mind that this is my playthrough, so some of your advice I may take to a certain extent, fully or not at all. J76NY saying thank you very much for watching. Oh, don't forget to subscribe here. We're just getting started with King Toras down there. Subscribe, notification bell, all that. J76NY saying thank you very much for watching and have yourself a very good day.